For thousands of years, the hieroglyphics carved into Egypt's monuments were a complete mystery. Scholars could see the symbols, but they couldn't read a single word. An entire civilization's written history was locked away, incomprehensible. Then, in 1799, French soldiers digging fortifications in Egypt uncovered a broken stone tablet covered in 3 different scripts. Within 20 years, a brilliant linguist would use that stone to crack the code, and suddenly, the voices of ancient Egypt could be heard again after 1400 years of silence. That's the power of archaeological discovery. A single find can unlock entire civilizations, rewrite history books, and force us to completely rethink what we thought we knew about the past. Today, I'm going to show you 6 discoveries that did exactly that. Archaeological finds so significant that they fundamentally changed our understanding of human history. Hey, I'm Michael and welcome to Hoodie History. Today, we're exploring 6 archaeological discoveries that literally rewrote history. These aren't just interesting finds, they're game changers. Each one required historians to tear up their textbooks and start over. Some revealed lost civilizations, others unlocked ancient languages, and a few pushed back the timeline of human achievement by thousands of years. So let's dive into the discoveries that changed everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. Discovery number 1, the Rosetta Stone, the key that unlocked ancient Egypt. In July 1799, Napoleon's army was occupying Egypt, fighting the British for control of the region. Near the town of Rosetta, French soldiers were digging fortifications when a lieutenant named Pierre-François Bouchard noticed something unusual embedded in the soil, a large slab of black granite covered in dense writing. The stone was broken, but what remained was remarkable. It contained the same text written in 3 different scripts: ancient Greek at the bottom, Demotic Egyptian in the middle, and hieroglyphics at the top. Now, why was this such a big deal? Because for over 1,000 years, no one could read hieroglyphics. After Egypt fell to the Romans and then converted to Christianity, the knowledge of how to read the ancient script was completely lost. Scholars could see hieroglyphics carved into temples and tombs all across Egypt, but they had no idea what any of it meant. It was like staring at a library of books written in a language no one speaks. But the Rosetta Stone changed everything, because it contained the same message in 3 scripts, and scholars could read ancient Greek. It was essentially a translation key. If you could match the Greek words to the hieroglyphic symbols, you could start to decode the entire writing system. It took over 2 decades, but in 1822, a French scholar named Jean-François Champollion finally cracked the code. He realized that hieroglyphics weren't just pictures representing ideas, they were a complex mix of phonetic sounds and symbols. Once he understood that, the floodgates opened. Suddenly, historians could read the inscriptions on pyramids, temples, and papyrus scrolls. They could understand the religious texts, the royal decrees, and the everyday records of ancient Egyptian life. An entire civilization that had been silent for 1400 years could finally speak again. The Rosetta Stone didn't just unlock a language, it unlocked an entire world. It allowed us to understand Egyptian religion, politics, engineering, and daily life in ways that were impossible before. And it proved that even the most incomprehensible mysteries can be solved with the right key. Discovery number 2, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest biblical texts ever found. In early 1947, a Bedouin shepherd named Mohammed Ed-Dib was searching for a lost goat in the cliffs near the Dead Sea. He tossed a rock into one of the many caves dotting the hillside and heard the sound of breaking pottery. Curious, he climbed inside and found several large clay jars. Inside those jars were ancient scrolls, written in linen, and remarkably well preserved. What he'd stumbled upon would become one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Over the next decade, archaeologists found more caves and more scrolls, nearly 1,000 documents in total, written mostly in Hebrew, with some in Aramaic and Greek. When scholars analyzed them, they realized that these texts dated from around 150 BCE to 70 CE. That made them the oldest known manuscripts of biblical texts, about 1,000 years older than any previously discovered Hebrew Bible. But here's why that's such a big deal. Before the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest complete Hebrew Bible dated to around 1000 CE. Scholars had always wondered how much had the text changed over the centuries. Were modern Bibles accurate to the originals, or had they been altered through countless generations of copying? The Dead Sea Scrolls answered that question definitively. When researchers compared the ancient texts to modern versions, they found that the biblical texts had been preserved with extraordinary accuracy. Despite 1,000 years of copying by hand, the content remained remarkably consistent. But the scrolls contained more than just biblical texts. They also included community rules, hymns, prayers, and commentaries that gave us a window into Jewish life during the Second Temple period. They revealed the beliefs of a sect known as the Essenes, who lived in isolation near the Dead Sea and practiced strict religious observance. These scrolls fundamentally changed our understanding of early Judaism and the context in which Christianity emerged. They showed us the religious diversity of the time, the debates over scripture and practice, and the apocalyptic beliefs that were widespread in first century Judea. The Dead Sea Scrolls didn't just preserve ancient texts, they opened a window into a pivotal moment in religious history, giving us unprecedented insight into the world that shaped both Judaism and Christianity. Discovery number 3, the Terracotta Army, an underground legion 8,000 strong. In March 1974, a group of farmers in Xi'an, China were digging a well during a drought. At about 5 meters deep, one of them, a man named Yang Zhifa, struck something hard with his shovel. When he cleared away the soil, he found a life-sized clay head staring back at him. What they'd uncovered was beyond anything anyone could have imagined. Buried beneath their farmland was an entire army, over 8,000 life-sized terracotta soldiers, along with horses, chariots, and weapons, all arranged in battle formation. Each figure was unique, with distinct facial features, hairstyles, and expressions, and they'd been standing there, underground, for over 2,000 years. This was the tomb complex of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, who died in 210 BCE. Qin Shi Huang was the man who unified China's warring states, standardized the writing system, built the early foundations of the Great Wall, and declared himself the first true emperor. He was a figure of immense power and ambition, and apparently he wanted to take an army with him into the afterlife. The scale of this project is staggering. It's estimated that over 700,000 workers spent nearly 40 years building the tomb complex. The terracotta soldiers were crafted with incredible detail. Each one stands about 1.8 meters tall, and they were originally painted in vibrant colors that have since faded. They were armed with real bronze weapons, many of which were still sharp when discovered. And here's what makes this discovery so historically significant. It completely changed our understanding of ancient Chinese art and engineering. Before the Terracotta Army was found, historians had no idea that the Qin dynasty possessed this level of artistic sophistication and organizational capacity. The figures aren't crude or generic, they're masterpieces of sculpture. Each warrior's face is different, suggesting they may have been modeled after real soldiers. The craftsmanship reveals advanced techniques in pottery, metallurgy, and large-scale production. This was an empire that could mobilize vast resources, coordinate massive projects, and achieve a level of realism in art that wouldn't be matched in Europe for another 1500 years. The Terracotta Army proved that the Qin dynasty wasn't just powerful, it was artistically and technologically advanced in ways we never imagined. And the emperor's tomb itself, which still hasn't been fully excavated, may contain even more secrets waiting to be revealed. Discovery number 4. Pompeii, a city frozen in time. In the autumn of 79 CE, the Roman city of Pompeii was thriving. For centuries, historians believed the eruption happened in August, but a charcoal inscription discovered in 2018 revealed it actually took place in October, rewriting the history of the city's final days. Pompeii was a wealthy port town near modern-day Naples, home to about 11,000 people. There were markets, bathhouses, theaters, and villas decorated with elaborate frescoes. Life was good. Then Mount Vesuvius erupted. The eruption buried Pompeii under meters of volcanic ash and pumice. The city was completely entombed, and it stayed that way for nearly 1700 years. While traces were found during canal work in the 1500s, they were ignored and reburied. It wasn't until 1748 that serious excavations began, eventually revealing something extraordinary. And when archaeologists began excavating, they found something incredible. A Roman city preserved almost exactly as it was on the day it was destroyed. The volcanic ash had created a hermetic seal, preserving buildings, artwork, furniture, food, and even the people themselves. Archaeologists found voids in the ash where bodies had decomposed, and by pouring plaster into those voids, they created haunting casts of Pompeii's final moments. People frozen in their last acts, trying to shield themselves or flee. But beyond the tragedy, Pompeii gave historians something priceless, a complete snapshot of daily Roman life. Before Pompeii, most of what we knew about ancient Rome came from the writings of elites, emperors, senators, philosophers. We knew about politics and wars and grand architecture, but we didn't really know how ordinary Romans lived day to day. Pompeii changed that. Archaeologists found bakeries with loaves of bread still in the ovens. They found graffiti on walls, jokes, insults, advertisements, declarations of love. They found wine bars, fast food restaurants, and even brothels with explicit frescoes. They found homes with intricate mosaics and gardens designed for leisure. The city revealed the sophistication of Roman engineering, underground plumbing systems, heated floors, aqueducts bringing fresh water. It showed the diversity of Roman society, inscriptions in Latin, Greek, and Oscan. It preserved artwork that would have been lost to time, including frescoes and mosaics that are among the finest examples of Roman art ever discovered. Pompeii didn't just give us a city, it gave us an entire civilization in vivid detail. It humanized the ancient Romans, showing us that they had hopes, fears, humor, and daily routines not so different from our own. And it continues to teach us. Even today, new excavations in Pompeii are revealing insights into Roman life that rewrite our understanding of the ancient world. Discovery number 5. King Tutankhamun's tomb, the only intact pharaoh's burial ever found. By the early 1920s, most archaeologists believed the Valley of the Kings had been completely excavated. Every significant tomb had been found, and almost all of them had been looted centuries ago. The consensus was, there's nothing left to discover. But British archaeologist Howard Carter disagreed. He was convinced there was one more tomb hidden somewhere in the valley. The tomb of a minor pharaoh named Tutankhamun, who had died around 1323 BCE at just 18 or 19 years old. Carter spent years searching, funded by the wealthy Lord Carnarvon. By 1922, Carnarvon was ready to give up, but Carter convinced him to fund one final season of excavation. And on November 4th, 1922, a water boy working on the dig discovered a stone step buried beneath the sand. Carter and his team cleared the stairway and found a sealed doorway. Behind it was a corridor filled with rubble, and then another sealed door. Carter made a small hole in the door and held up a candle to peer inside. Carnarvon asked, "Can you see anything?" Carter replied, "Yes, wonderful things." What he saw was a room filled with golden treasures, furniture, chariots, and statues, all remarkably intact. They had found the tomb, and unlike every other royal tomb in Egypt, this one had never been fully looted. What made this discovery so significant wasn't that Tutankhamun was an important pharaoh. He wasn't. He ruled for only about 10 years and died young. What made it significant was that this tomb was intact. For the first time, archaeologists could see exactly what a pharaoh's burial looked like, with all the treasures and rituals preserved. The tomb contained over 5,000 objects, golden shrines, a solid gold coffin, the iconic golden death mask, jewelry, weapons, clothing, furniture, chariots, and even food for the afterlife. The level of craftsmanship was extraordinary, evidence of the wealth and artistic skill of ancient Egypt at its height. But beyond the treasures, the tomb provided invaluable information about Egyptian burial practices, religious beliefs, and daily life. It gave us insights into the process of mummification, the items Egyptians believed were necessary for the afterlife, and the intricate rituals surrounding death and resurrection. King Tut's tomb became a global sensation. It sparked a wave of Egyptomania in the 1920s and brought ancient Egypt into the popular imagination in a way nothing else had. And it proved that even when experts think there's nothing left to find, archaeology can still surprise us. Discovery number 6. The Lasso Cave Paintings, prehistoric art that changed everything. On September 12, 1940, 4 teenage boys were exploring the countryside near Montagnac in southwestern France when their dog disappeared down a hole. The boys followed, squeezing through a narrow opening into an underground cavern. When they lit their lamps, they found themselves surrounded by something astonishing. The walls were covered in vivid paintings of animals, horses, bulls, deer, and extinct species like aurochs and woolly rhinoceroses. What they discovered would revolutionize our understanding of prehistoric humans. The paintings at Lasso date back approximately 17,000 years, created during the Upper Paleolithic period. At the time, humans were still hunter-gatherers, living in small nomadic groups. According to prevailing theories in the early 20th century, these cavemen were supposed to be primitive, barely more advanced than animals themselves. But the art at Lasso told a completely different story. These weren't crude stick figures scratched into rock. They were sophisticated, dynamic compositions created by skilled artists who understood proportion, perspective, and movement. The painters used multiple colors, red, yellow, brown, and black, made from natural pigments like ochre and charcoal. They used the contours of the cave walls to give their subjects three-dimensional depth. Some of the animals appear to be running, captured mid-motion with remarkable realism. The discovery of Lasso and similar cave art found across Europe forced historians to completely rethink their assumption about prehistoric humans. These weren't primitive brutes struggling to survive, they were people with artistic vision, technical skill, and perhaps, most importantly, abstract thinking. They created art not for survival, but for reasons we can only speculate about: ritual, storytelling, education, or simply the human need to express and create. The paintings also revealed something profound about the continuity of human nature. These artists, living 17,000 years ago in a world completely different from ours, felt the same impulse to create, to document, to leave a mark on the world. They observed their environment with keen attention to detail and translated that into art that still moves us today. Lasso proved that the human capacity for creativity and symbolic thought goes back much further than anyone imagined. And it reminds us that the line between primitive and civilized is far more blurred than we'd like to think. These were humans just like us, with the same intelligence, the same emotions, and the same drive to create meaning in their world. So what do these 6 discoveries tell us? For me, the most powerful thing about archaeological discoveries isn't just that they uncover lost artifacts or reveal forgotten civilizations. It's that they encourage us to constantly rewrite the story that we tell ourselves about humanity. Every one of these discoveries challenged the prevailing assumptions of its time. The Rosetta Stone proved we could unlock languages that had been dead for over 1,000 years. The Dead Sea Scrolls showed that the ancient texts had been preserved with astonishing accuracy. The Terracotta Army revealed that ancient China was far more sophisticated than anyone realized. Pompeii gave us an unfiltered look at daily Roman life. King Tut's tomb proved there were still treasures waiting to be found. And Lasso showed us that creativity and artistic expression are fundamental to being human, going back tens of thousands of years. And here's the thing, we're not done. There are still countless sites waiting to be discovered. Entire cities buried beneath jungles and deserts, tombs that have never been opened, artifacts that could rewrite everything we think we know. Archaeology is an ongoing process of discovery and revision. These 6 discoveries remind us that history isn't a fixed narrative written in stone. It's a constantly evolving story that changes every time we dig a little deeper, look a little closer, or refuse to accept that we found everything there is to find. The past is still speaking to us. We just have to listen. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed exploring these incredible discoveries with me, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people who love this kind of content. And if you want to keep diving into history's most fascinating stories, make sure you subscribe to Hoodie History. I've got plenty more mysteries, discoveries, and unbelievable historical moments coming your way. If you want to keep up with Hoodie History between episodes, come and find me on Instagram or TikTok. You can find me at Hoodie History on both. I publish short history videos over there regularly. And if you want more history delivered straight to your inbox, stories, reflections, the occasional deep dive rabbit hole, the Hoodie History newsletter is the place for it. You'll find the sign up link in the episode description. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, remember, the past is full of secrets, and every discovery brings us one step closer to understanding the incredible story of humanity.